and welcome to season 2021-22, episode 6A of Counties Podcast, the Northwest Counties Football League official video podcast. So it's been a wee while. What's happened? Anything? One or two things have happened. So anyway, because it's been a wee while, there's a lot to catch up on. So without further ado, we'll crack on and introduce this evening's panel. So to start off with, you've got yours truly. I am Gary Langley. I am League Director and League Safeguarding Officer.
Ooh, promotion.
No, side reach. So, no, bit of a change of role just to make you best use of the assets. And I'm still keeping the old ringer sort of status by nipping in and helping the team out. So anyway, speaking of the team, we will start with whoever's there. We have my fellow league director. We have media mentor, league results coordinator and secretary of Runcorn Town, brackets are closed brackets. It's Mr. Martin Fallon. Hi Martin, how are you?
Oh, that was a low blow.
Cruel, that is, Gary. That's cruel. I'm okay, thank you.
Good stuff. You're still in Portugal or Prestatyn, or you on more local?
Sunny running.
Say. Excellent. And in no particular order, we will go with next one on the screen. So we have League Media Officer and all-round good guy and writer for the non-league paper. It's Mr. Alex. So, Alex, you okay?
I'm very well, thank you, Gary. Delighted to be back. Doing this. Got a fair amount to catch up on. So
yeah, you're not kidding. I've got a whole shopping list of goodies here, which we've got to try and touch on.
You're going to be powering through them.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but certainly by no means least, we have league journalist and press Chase, media guy or program editor or jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Jake.
A little bit, yeah. I wear a couple of hats at Presswich.
It's always the way.
Yeah. Good to be back. Nice to be back in the podcast as well. After a bit of a delay. So there's a lot to talk about, isn't there?
Yeah, just the 36 things on the agenda to cram into just over an hour. Okay, folks, so before we get going on the subjects, you can help these podcasts out. And of course, your friendly local Northwest Counties Football League. Please like this podcast. It does help, something to do with algae rhythms. And also, if you subscribe to the channel, it's free to do so. If you're watching this, more likely than not, you've got an account. Just hit subscribe. That also helps as well. And also spread the word. There's something else that you can do on these things, which also helps as well. But anyway, I forgot. Also, just remember as well, until we can figure out how to put ads in on these things, it's ad-free. So yeah, that also helps as well.
That'll be next season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. For now, we've got the drop on the other podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we work out how to make a bit of money.
Actually, probably a good time for all of us to drop in items that we would like to sponsor. So, I would love it if Lucas-Aid were interested in sponsoring this podcast.
Just have a bottle here.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. Or hair removal cream.
Why not? Or sponsor cleaning products.
Well.
All right, chaps. Right, should we get straight into chapter 1, item 1, which is Withy Town and their Vase run. They did rather well, chaps. What's our thoughts on it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's not much. Yeah, that's got to be the first thing you do. Is just give them a round of applause.
It's only a few years ago they were Manchester League still, and they've come up again, and they're challenging at the top of the Premier, quarter-final of the FA Vase. Brilliant run. It's probably whetted their appetite for future sort of Vase campaigns, I think. They'll want to, having got sort of so close, they'll want to sort of push on in the next couple of years and say, well, we're only 2 games away. There's no reason we can't do it. As Ryland showed last year, really.
Yeah, I think of the 8 ties they had, 7 of them were away from home. They went 3-3 on penalties. So I think by that point, when I was speaking to James, the boss there, a couple of weeks ago, he was sort of saying there was a slight feeling of name on the trophy. So I think to go out in the way they did against Loughborough, who are a very, very good team, it should be said, I think they'll be disappointed with, but definitely a lot to take from that run. So, and there's big paths with and sure.
Yeah, plenty of positives to take from the club and from the league's perspective as well. Obviously, last year we had Warrington Rylands going on and managing to lift the trophy at Langley. It's great exposure for the league system as well, seeing the team from the Northwest Counties doing so well in a competition that is across the country. And again, Wythenshawe Town have been the torchbearers this year up until that Loughborough match. Who also knocked out Abbey Hay as well, who had a fantastic run of their own. Obviously, they're not even a Counties League Premier Division team. So seeing two teams from our league system doing so well in that competition is brilliant for us.
I think as a league, though, we do have a pretty good heritage in this competition. Obviously, we're not right up there with the North East because they're stalwarts of it. I thought we give them a run for the money.
No, they're well out. They're well out. I think they've won the Vase 11 times. Their teams.
Yeah.
But of all the other Step 5 leagues, we're the second most successful league in the country. So.
Yeah, we always give them a run for the money, don't we? And we always get teams there or thereabouts. We've always got a few heading towards around about the quarters at the very least. So yeah, it's always good to see a couple of sides really do well in it this season, and the sides that have really pushed on, you like the Abbey Hayes and the Willie Towns and so on. But we had a few there towards the end that could any of them could have done it, but wasn't quite meant to be this season.
Maybe not. You can see that the league momentum can carry them a bit though in those cup competitions. You look at where Wythenshawe Town are in the Premier Division, you look at where Abbey Hay are in the First Division South. They're not languishing in the league. They're not a cup run and that's that. They've both had incredible seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so
and speaking of FA Vase and FA, finals day at Wembley, we'll be there in May. So I'm sure we're all looking forward to that.
Are we all going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Terrific news.
There we go.
That's the first I've heard of it, but sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, news to me. Have you got the tickets, mine?
Oh, we'll be all right. Gary knows a man. Collection behind the garages in Bootle.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we always follow it through to the end, and we always support the competition right at the end, and we always have a good podcast at the end of it as well, which gets a lot of listens to and debate and so on. So yeah, it'd be wrong not to be there.
And it'd be a debut Wembley video podcast, which would be strange.
Oh well, there we go. We can't pass that up.
Yeah, crikey, Martin, you'll have to have a look into the old TV rights for that and see if there's any issues.
As long as we're not broadcasting. Yeah, as long as we're not broadcasting the game, we're okay.
Oh, fair dues. We'll have our usual desk and we'll have our cheeky little GoPro on the side, disguised as a coffee cup.
Yeah. Just have a mirror in background, reflecting on the pitch.
No.
Okay, gents, should we crack on to Chapter 1, Item 2? Small matter of the Premier Division being one of late. Not too surprising given recent forms, but at the end of the day, you've got to go out and win it. And Macclesfield did what they needed to do. They went out and won the league. But I'll start with Martin. Was it a big surprise for yourself on that one, perhaps? Or
no, I think they've been the standout team of the year, really, for me. And league tables never lie. Whoever's top at the end of the season deserves to be top, and they've done it well before the end of the season, really. They've only lost 4.
What's in front of you, can't you?
Yeah, 27 wins from 38 games, better than anyone. Lost the least amount, scored them. I don't think they have scored the most goals, but the ones that matter, the wins and the losses, that they're ahead of everyone. So even though a lot of people will come on and say that they've sort of bought the league or something like that, I don't necessarily agree with that. Yeah, they've probably got the biggest wage bill, but they've got the biggest support in the league. So, as a club, you'd be stupid not to at least put a proportion of that towards your wage bill and ensure sort of your promotion, really.
Yeah. What about you, Jay? Have you got any thoughts on it? Was it a big surprise to yourself, or
not really? No, I think
tipped or scoreboard?
Absolutely. Obviously, they've earned it. It'd be ridiculous to say they've not. I think when at the beginning of the season, when it was announced that they would be part of the Counties League, I think everybody sort of went, "Oh, they're going to win it," because they're the team with the most drawing power, as Martin said. They've got that massive support that they have. Like, I've been to a couple of Macclesfield games this season, and there've been 2,000, 3,000 plus people there. I went to most recently the top of the table clash at the time between Macclesfield and Skem, when there was only a goal difference in it at the end of January, and it looked a lot more sort of up in the air. But since then, Macclesfield have really put their foot down on the gas and they've stormed into it. Skem, it's harsh to say they've fallen off because they've still kept themselves in second, but they've lost track of Macclesfield quite a bit. Like, the points gap has massively widened since that game, and obviously that game itself was a 3-1 win for Macclesfield. That's sort of the point in the season where you sort of went, right, it was the 6-pointer, and it wasn't exactly the title decider, but it was that in everything but name. They were the team that wanted it more on the day, and the team that wanted it more over the course of the season.
Alex, any take?
I mean, I think it is that thing of you can only play what's in front of you, and they've been a very good team. My hope is that the fans and the club have enjoyed their time in the league as well. I think it's been a very, very competitive league, and I hope they've had some good away days, some good home games. And at the beginning of the season, if you told me Macclesfield were going to win the league, I would have said, yeah. I mean, obviously, but it hasn't really panned out like that. And I think the Skem game a few weeks back was that decider. I think Skem maybe realised, they're quite good, and they're going to continue to be good. They're going to be a stiff competition in the Northern Premier League as well, and probably all the way back to the National League and League Two. So yeah, I don't think there's no surprise there, but I hope that they've enjoyed their time in the league.
Yeah, I think it's easier said than done. Sort of them going all the way back through to the Football League. You'd have a look at a lot of clubs who've sort of done the same. Darlington, for example, Chester sort of started again. Even
Boston.
Even like FC United as well. With their fan base and stuff. But you find your level, and the top sort of tiers of non-league football is very, very competitive these days. It really is. There was what Stockport County against Notts County. A few weeks ago in the conference, there was over 10,000 there for that, and you think, it's unbelievable the sort of conference these days. Well, sorry, National League. I still call it conference.
I think non-league in general this season, I'm sure this is a topic we'll probably touch on towards the end of the year, but the popularity of it, you feel like it has gone up. Whenever I'm at a game, it feels busier than it ever has, and it feels like there's more of a buzz around it, which is great.
Yeah, post-COVID, you mean?
Yeah.
I was going to say that's going to have a lot to do with it, because obviously, elite level football continued throughout the pandemic. Non-league football stopped completely, and we basically had 2 years off. So now it's come back, and if there's people with nothing to do at Saturday at 3:00, people who might not have before the pandemic said, "Oh yeah, let's go to a non-league game," they might go, "Yeah, go on, let's go watch a bit of footy around the corner at whatever ground in the Counties League or in any other non-league format, non-league league system." And I think that's great for the sport, absolutely.
Okay, gents. Should we move on? Maybe looking a little bit further down the table, because there's still a lot to play for. We can talk about the potential for playoffs, the long debated, much wanted, and finally arrived sort of maybe in their final sort of form, but maybe not. But we've got the likes of Skem, Withy and Charnock all pushing for that playoff place. So what's our thoughts on those teams, chaps? So are we sort of surprised or not surprised that it's those particular types of teams, and are we expecting them to do well in the playoff? Open floor.
I think they've, Macclesfield apart, I think they've been the other three standout teams in the Premier Division this year. They've always been sort of top four, interchanging positions. Wythenshawe particularly, like you said before, Gary, with the Vase run, to maintain that promotion push, and they're very much still in there with only a week to go of the season. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. And it's still up in the air as to, who's going to get that second place and go into the playoffs, really.
Yeah, I think the gap, the fact that, Charnock and Wythenshawe Town are separated on goals scored, I think it is, and have played the same number of games, 2 less than Skem, is pretty impressive. It's going to be a really tight battle to get in that. I can't sit here and say who I think the 3 are. Which one of the 3 I think is going to get it. I have no idea. I don't think any of us could.
No, as I get the hang of editing, by the way, once Martin sent me a rough copy of this over, very soon we'll be able to say, and here's the league table as it stands. Work in progress. Yeah. Jay Martin.
Yeah. I think as Alex has just said there's literally a game in it. One game could be the decider between finishing second and finishing fourth. Those teams are so close together with the amount of games each one's played. And they've all got their own thing going for them recently. Obviously, you mentioned Wythenshawe Town and the Vase run that they've had this season. Sean and Richard are the highest goal scorers in the league. They're the only team so far to get triple digits with the amount of goals they've scored. And Skem, obviously, was it beginning of this season or was it last season when they made the first round of the FA Cup?
Yeah, last season, yeah.
Last season, after that, it sort of brought a few eyes to Skem United and sort of boosted their expectations a little bit. And that's what the manager said when I spoke to him after that Macclesfield game in late January. And, it's sort of the expectation that weighs on their shoulders now. I mean, it's on them to win that final game of the season that they've got. But with Charnock and Wythenshawe 2 games behind both of them, they're going to be sniffing around. There's a lot of pressure on Skem's shoulders. It's a little bit, looking at the potential points, it's actually kind of out of Skem's hands. Because Charnock and Wythenshawe can win their remaining games and overtake them. Both of them can. So it's up in the air and it's going to make for an exciting final day.
All 3 likely to win the playoff then?
Yeah.
Just putting it out there.
Well, and a quirk of the fixture list, obviously, this coming Saturday is Charnock Richard versus Wythenshawe Town.
Oh, it is.
So, could you get a much bigger game at the end of the season?
There you go. Yeah, that's going to be a massive one. That
like every playoff, and this is going to be so boring because we're going to say this in every division. It is all about momentum, and whoever gets that final spot is going to get it 1, maybe 2 games if they're lucky out from the end of the season.
I think the winner of that Charnock versus Wythenshawe game, I reckon they'll probably take it.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I think if it finishes a draw, then Wythenshawe have still got it in their hands, so they can still win the remaining 2 games and finish above Skelmersdale, no matter what Skelmersdale do on the final game of the season. So, yeah.
Hey, chap. So, do you want to move on from the top and have a look at the other end?
The other week, I suggested in my program notes that it'd be Charnock, but as of now, it's anybody's. You can't call it.
It does show a healthy Premier Division, though, doesn't it? At the end of the day, as we're all saying there, they've all got momentum. They've all got something about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Just before we move on, Gary, just a note on the playoffs. In an ordinary season, playoffs, whoever's second would basically play off against the team that's 3rd or 4th from bottom in the step 4, Northern Premier League and Isthmian and Southern League. This season it's a little bit different because basically there's gaps further up the pyramid. I think the National League North and South are increasing to 24 teams from current 22 teams. So to fill them gaps, obviously there's going to be some reprieve and extra promotions. So as a result of that, there's 10 teams out the is there 18 step 5 leagues? Yeah, I think so. There's 10 teams who are going to get promoted automatically without playoffs this year. Unfortunately, we're not going to be one of them in our league because like you say, it's that competitive. The points per game ratio for our division's a lot lower than other runners up would be. So we will be entering the playoffs. But it's interesting. Not ordinarily, we'd probably play off against the team that's nearest to you. But this season it's not going to be like that. So if you look in the league above, with the Northern Premier Division 1 West, you've got Prescott Cables who are third bottom. Well, they're going to get reprieved as things stand at the minute. So you're potentially looking against a playoff of, say, Histon, which is Cambridge.
I mean, it's quite the away though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
some trip,
yeah, it could be Sheffield or Bridlington Town, perhaps. But they might get paired with the Northern League, so it's going to be. There could be quite a bit of travelling involved for whoever's in the playoffs this year. Really,
it'd be a terrible trip home if you got beat though.
It'd be great if you win.
Like God.
Yeah. And
gents, I'm sorry to be a party pooper, but we've got 97 things to debate.
We have one more thing just to make aware of.
Just to stall talking about the bottom two, is that, Martin?
Yeah, and like I say about the league above, so Market Drayton finished bottom. So that I think they'll go into the Midland League, but Kendal Town have also been relegated, so that's a potential for sort of dropping into the Northwest Counties League next season. I'd say.
Kendal United.
Yeah, well, I've never been to Kendal, so
yeah, it's a bit out of town for
that ages away.
Yeah, but they'd potentially be the only ones dropping in, really. So
okay, gents. On the subject of reprieves, then we could maybe look at the bottom of the table to give Martin a bit of hope. So Martin, bottom two. It'll be it'll be Litherland, Remica and Runcorn Town in no particular order, subject to whatever drama happens over the next week or two. So what's the situation looking like on reprieves? Because obviously we see Kev Lawton's stats. There's the NWCFL Facebook group that we see certain stats going into as well, and normally around about this time you get your sort of closet statos coming out with all predictions as well. Are we likely to see relegation from the Prem, or is there a get out of jail free card?
There is one get out of jail free card. So basically, Runcorn Town and Litherland Remica will finish bottom two. That's mathematically. Ordinarily, that will be relegation, but the reprieves that have just picked up on, that has a knock-on effect at 5 to 6 as well. So whoever's second bottom, how many leagues did they say there was?
18.
18. So no, I think there's only 16 actually, to be honest. But 12 teams are going to get reprieved across step 5. Again, whoever's got the best points per game ratio. And basically Runcorn Town and Litherland level on points. They've got the 6th best in the country at the minute. So whoever finishes second bottom will get a reprieve, basically. So a lot to sort of play for in the next 2 games for Runcorn Town and Litherland Remica, really.
Deadline day is looking pretty cool.
I saw Litherland playing at the weekend. They came to Prestwich and won 1-0. And for a team that have an R in brackets next to their name in the table, for winning 1-0, they celebrated like it was a trophy winning game. And what you've just said there, Martin, a chance to reprieve, that explains a lot.
Well, it's not a chance. It will be a reprieve.
Well, there you go. They'll need to leapfrog. They'll need to leapfrog your beloved Runcorn in order to do that. It seems.
Yeah.
It's kind of
sorry, go on, Alex.
I was going to say it's kind of the beauty, but also the madness of non-league, and how I think it might take some people sort of thinking about it a slightly different way. Because I definitely have had to do that since we came into the counties. Because you finish in the bottom 2, bottom 3, usually you're down. That's how it works. But the fact that it's not like that, and then both of those teams probably have something to play for right to the end of the season. Yeah, it's such a brilliant thing. So,
yeah, but like I said earlier,
dual reg. Man, is it a time where you go out and sign dual reg, or you find you tip your sofa upside down and get a few extra quid from somewhere, and your season's finished, Bob? Do you fancy a quick 7-day notice to help us in our big final game of the season?
More games.
There's a bag of Space Raiders in it.
That's a very annoying thing from Runcorn Town's perspective. So we lost our striker to Macclesfield 2 weeks ago.
Everyone else has. Why not?
But in an ordinary season, it wouldn't happen. So an ordinary season finishes the end of April. So the last month of the season, you can't sign anyone. The transfer deadline's gone. Whereas because we're finishing early this year, there is no transfer deadline in effect.
So can you see the likes of yourselves and Remica potentially going out and trying to bring somebody in or somebody who can make a difference?
Don't know.
It's there, isn't it? It is. I've always been an advocate of like dual edge players and expanding the horizons a bit, getting people in if needs be. Because a lot of teams in mid-table now whose fate is sealed, players might fancy a 7-day swerve for a bit and what have you, but it requires a little bit of foresight and maybe not upsetting the apple cart in the dressing room. So I get that as well.
Yeah, but like I said earlier, league table doesn't lie at the end, so whoever does finish bottom and gets relegated, be that Litherland or Runcorn Town, they deserve it over the course of the season, really.
That's like you come to terms with it, Martin.
You can't do it about it, so why worry about it?
Something that you mentioned there, Martin, just reminded me about Runcorn losing their striker to Macclesfield, like you said. With the season finishing early and with transfers still being able to happen, I was told, I can't remember who by, at that Prestwich versus Litherland game, I was told that in the week leading up to that match, Litherland had lost 5 players. Yeah. So, the players that, a team that's been relegated, teams above them in the league with the transfer window still open can turn to them and say, do you want to go down next season or do you want to come to us and you can still play Premier Division football? It's something on the hook that they've got. It's a lure for those players that are in danger of the drop, but the ones that stick around or the ones that even come on board to try and keep the fight alive is what makes this kind of level of football really engaging. And it does go to the last day. It doesn't matter what the league table says when there's an R in brackets next to the name. You play to the whistle, and you really do in this league.
Yeah, and one last one, Gary, before we move on. There's 2 games left for both clubs. Runcorn Town's at Vauxhall Motors on Saturday, and Litherland's last game's at home to Vauxhall Motors. So they've got a massive say in,
absolutely.
In what happens, really. Yeah.
Right, okay. So that's pretty much Premier Division sorted for now, but we'll sort of dip back into it a little bit maybe later on, subject to midnight approaching. So we'll have a look at Division 1. Gents, Division 1 North or Division 1 South first? Take your pick.
North
It is. Okay. Right. So, lot going on in Division 1 North. South Liverpool have done Bury AFC a little bit of a favour the other evening, drawing at Holker. It's still up for grabs. Maybe it wouldn't be too much of a surprise if Bury AFC win the league. However, the fact that we're still a week or 2 away from the end of the season and it's still not been sorted out, unlike the other 2 divisions, again shows that you can still have a very good team and a very good squad, but it's still such a competitive division. So what's our thoughts on the top of Division 1 North at the moment? And I'll start with Martin.
Well, Bury need, 2 points? So 1 win from the last 2 games. They're at home to bottom of the table, which is exactly who you'd want to play, needing a point, I guess. So, barring a bit of a miracle, I think Bury have done it. And again, as we said with Macclesfield, the standout team in the division for me. They went most of the season without losing a game. They've still not lost many games. So
they've been very good on and off the park, but Bury this season, they've really taken to it. They made a lot of friends on the travels. They've enjoyed the season, and they've had a successful season. So yeah, I get that. Alex, Jay, have either of you seen Bury this season?
Not this season, I haven't. I saw them in the.
We went together. We went to Chadderton.
Oh, of course we did. Yeah, I was thinking of that as I went to Chadderton, but yeah, of course
it was memorable.
It was a nice day out for me, Jay.
Yeah. Sorry, I've slept since then.
Yeah,
I've had a drink. In that time since. Yeah, very. Well, they were a team last season as well. In the brief time that there was last season before it was curtailed due to COVID again. Again, they were top of the league in that season as well before the reshuffle and a few promotions and relegations. Seeing them at the top isn't that surprising. Obviously, Alex, as you've reminded me there, that we did see them go to Chadderton. And that was, and to be fair, they didn't look leagues above. Chadderton, who were a mid-table side, they can make a late push for the playoffs. I'm not sure they can at this point. But at the time it was on the table, Chadderton didn't look leagues below Bury. They've been the standout team, and that's kind of what you'd expect in the same vein as Macclesfield. They're the Phoenix club, aren't they? They're the club that have gone under and come down to our division, and they're looking to rise back through the ranks. But yeah, I mean, their promotion, I don't think is the most unexpected thing in the world. If they can obviously get the win in the last 2 games, but it's good to see that teams like Holker have been able to push them as far as they have.
Yeah,
Alex,
I think a lot of credit has to go to Holker. They've really kept pace with them. They've been on such a good run at the moment, and it is probably not going to be enough. But again, looking towards the playoffs, they're looking very, very strong, as we'll sort of come on to in a second. I think Golker in January, they looked like they were going to really push Bury, and I think that Bury's last game is away at Golker, and we always thought that was going to be a bit of a crunch match. But I think I've got to give a huge amount of credit to Bury and how they've handled themselves this year in this league. They've been really great. Everyone I've spoken to at the club has always been fantastic. The fans have been really lovely whenever I've met them. And they've really taken to the league. And I think, I don't have an allegiance to anyone. I should state that now, but I think they've been a fantastic addition to the counties. And I think will deservedly are the best team in that division and will deservedly win the league this weekend.
I think another thing, looking at those playoff places, there's another team as well that deserves a little bit of credit. AFC Blackpool are 4th in the league as it stands, and it looks like they're going to keep hold of that playoff place. The only team to have actually beaten Bury in the league this season. The only roadblock in an invincible season, I should say, has been AFC Blackpool. So credit where it's due for that as well.
I have to say as well, AFC Blackpool have been really entertaining this year as well.
I haven't seen them play.
I think they've just been really fun to follow.
Oh yeah.
Okay, gents. We're touching there on the playoffs.
But we've got to also give a lot of credit to Holker Old Boys. I think very much mid-table for a lot of years. They challenged a fair few years back when AFC Liverpool come up. We're talking, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, and they've very much been middle of the table since. And to be a week left of the season, they're still the only team who can pit Bury. I think they had a 9-match winning run, which has got to be a club record there. Hats off to everyone at Holker, which is brilliant. They say quite often that they don't pay players. There's an awful lot of travelling. Everyone goes to Holker once a year and complains, whereas Holker, they travel every other week. So, you got to give your hats off to everyone at Holker for me. Brilliant.
Okay, chaps. So we've got Holker, Goker in the playoffs. So they're sorted. Both very good value for it. I was speaking to some lads from Goker the other week when they came to South Liverpool, and I think they're up for it. I quite fancy Goker in the playoffs myself. Those are the 2 spots. Obviously, Jay touched there on AFC Blackpool. So the other potential options are Nelson. Very good side, Nelson. I was there last Saturday. Very organised, and that's a first for Nelson for a few years. The really good side, tall and so on. Pilkington could still do it. And Brent Peters, Bacup Borough as well. They're very much still in the mix as well, although they've had a rough few weeks by their own high standards in comparison to the rest of the season. And that might well come back and bite me on the backside next Thursday morning at 10 o'clock on YouTube. But hey-ho, it's there to be said.
A little quirk in the table mentioning Pilkington and Bacup Borough. Is Pilkington currently in 6th and Bacup in 7th? Pilkington have scored 73 goals this season and conceded 73 goals this season. They have a 0 goal difference. And Bacup Borough, the team below them by 2 points, as it stands, have 73 goals scored as well, but have only conceded 46. So they've got 27 better goal difference than the team above them by 2 points. That's a strange quirk, considering the team below them, Chadderton, who are 8th, have a -4 goal difference. They look like a real outlier there.
Yeah, Chadderton's
been flying, haven't they?
Only scored 50.
Pilks were flying early season, and they're a bit of a dodgy spot, and they were conceding quite a few goals in this poor, small run of fixtures that they had. They were shipping quite a few goals. and it shows something went slightly askew there, and obviously they ended up changing the manager as well. They seem to have steadied the ship a wee bit now as well. So there's a lot going on there, but it just goes to show you can have a dip of form and you can really get hauled back into it quite quick.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Nelson. They're the ones who've come from nowhere. They were well outside the playoffs. It was basically Blackpool, Blackpool. Don't know where I got Darwin from. Bacup and Pilks, and Nelson would literally come from nowhere. They had a great run. So you talk about coming into the playoffs with momentum. They've definitely got momentum.
Yeah. Hello. Does anybody fancy Bacup?
Yeah, I do.
We mentioned all the teams there. I always reckon Bacup should be upper echelons in a Division 1. They for me should be sort of there or thereabouts anyway. But has the recent run of
got a better goal difference. If they keep winning their games, they'll be in the play.
Exactly. It is the points that I mean. It sounds silly saying that the points are going to be the difference makers because obviously, but as long as they can keep pace, as long as they don't fall off and lose any of their remaining games, as long as they're in the mix, that goal difference is going to be huge because they have that on the teams around them. So if it comes to they're on the same points at the end of the season as Pilkington or Nelson or even AFC Blackpool, then they're going to be the team that takes the playoff place because of that incredible goal difference they've got.
Yeah, I think the one downside for Bacup though is obviously we've only got a week of the season left, and they've got 4 games, so they're playing twice next midweek on Tuesday and Thursday. So it's whether fatigue sort of comes into it, really.
They've got to use any squad depth they've got.
Yeah, they have got a good squad as well, so you wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's what you need at this kind of time of the year.
Perhaps should we have a look at the depth then? Because obviously Division 1 North is still there to be decided, so we can have a look at again next week or whenever we do the next podcast. But looking at the bottom, we've got St Helens Town relegated, and then it's possibly Atherton LR or Darwin in the bottom 2. Ashton Town, Milky sort of down there as well, but it's largely it's realistically it's going to be someone like a Darwin probably or an Atherton LR. So. Gents, I'll start first with St Helens. Did St Helens finish bottom surprise anyone, given St Helens' recent trouble over the last, say, 4 to 5 years?
No.
It does surprise me, I guess, because they have struggled, but to see them where they are, it's not nice.
It's sad. It's like slapping Bambi.
Yeah.
Talking about St Helens finishing bottom. But it's there to be raised.
You only have to rewind 3 or 4 years, and they were the only team who'd never been relegated from the Premier Division, and they got relegated from Premier Division. They've struggled, and they're getting relegated again, unfortunately. And
it's one of them like off the pitch struggles can affect you to the point where you'll look at a league table before the season starts and go, they're going to have a rough one, but it's just for them being as off the pace as they are, like the team directly above them at the moment, Atherton, I don't think they can get, they can get within half of Atherton's points this season, and that's it. They're very much off the pace, and it's never nice to see that kind of thing for a team.
I think that with St Helens, and it's the same with St Martin's when we come on to it, it could be a blessing in disguise of sorts, which is horrible. You don't like saying that. You don't like seeing teams relegated. But it's an opportunity for them to sort of regroup, hopefully, and maybe come back next season.
That's quite a complicated mix in that area, though, as well. And we might come to this if we've got time at the end when we discuss the county feeder leagues as well. It's complicated in that area.
Yeah, well, if we don't, I'll just throw it in the mix now, just in case we don't come to it and discuss the leagues as a whole. But what will likely happen is FC St Helens will replace them. So, that'll go down like a lead balloon with St Helens Town supporters.
And FC St Helens are about 250 yards to the right. So it's about as like for like as you can get by way of location, fan base and so on. But also you've got those 3 teams, FC St Helens Town and Pilks, all within that 250 yard stretch as well. So
you can sneeze from one ground and it'll hit the other.
in effect, yeah. Gents, does anybody want to give Darwin an honourable mention? I mean, they've got a cracking pitch, nice setup, potentially big things expected there. This season has not worked out for them at all. But they're good results of the night.
I was going to say, looking at the form table, they're actually one of the better in the league as of the last 6 games. And, you know, if there's a time to hit form when you're in a relegation battle, it's now. It's the business end of the season.
We've got
I think
genuinely interesting relegation battle in that division.
Absolutely, yeah. Ashton and Ilkley need to be looking over their shoulders, I think, because they're not out of the woods yet. They're getting there, but and they do both have a game in hand on Darwin, but it's certainly not over.
Just going to say, Darwin have only got one game left. That on the last game of the season, away at South Liverpool, Gary. So it might be out of their hands, you know. Come Saturday, if Ilkley and Ashton both win, then you know. Nothing
it's one of them. Like they've pushed now towards the end of the season, but they've not given themselves enough wiggle room to get themselves out of it on their own merits now.
No, I think the one fixture that strikes out to me is Atherton LR, who are, like say, second bottom. You mentioned Ashton Town could get sucked in. They've still got to play each other. I think it's next midweek. Maybe.
And both those teams have 2 games left as well. So
yeah, well, it might be the final game of the season actually. That
might be one to keep an eye on.
So yeah, it could be a lot riding on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gents, quick look at the compass. South looks good. Should we head to the south?
Yeah,
I guess so.
Okay. With great aplomb, a few flares, several bags of quinoa, and some really trendy beers which no one's ever heard of from Norway. West Didsbury and Chorlton have, they finally won Division 1 South, which to me personally wasn't a great surprise. They've been a standout team for me this season, but we're getting close of business in Division 1 South by the looks of it. So over to you, gents, open floor. Anyone surprised by West Didsbury and Chorlton concluding the business?
I'm going to start on this one, if that's all right, because why not? No, I'm not surprised, to be honest. I think they've been the best team in that league. I don't want to say by a country mile, because that's probably not true, but they have been the best team for the majority of the season in that division. I think other teams have been in the title race. You know, Isle of Man were in it briefly, New Mills were in it, Abbey Hay were briefly in it as well. And I think West Didsbury have gone out and done the business. And I just literally before this podcast and probably... Hello, Gary, you all right there?
Martin's cup has got C on it.
Everything all right there?
The Counties podcast.
So he's just getting a little closer.
Anyway, sorry, carry on, Alex.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty much... I think after this... maybe before this podcast has gone out, I'll have had a piece up with the West Didsbury boss, Chris. They won it last night or a while ago, depending on when this podcast goes out. And they turned up basically last night. They didn't have a great first half, but I think they just about got the job done, and they can look forward to lifting, I think, a very well-deserved league title on Saturday.
Okay.
And a record crowd for Barnton in that game, 577, which is great stuff.
I think about 400 of that was supposedly West Didsbury as well. So
that's not easy done at Barton's ground either, because it's parking's a swine. It is a bit in the middle of nowhere-ish.
I think West Didsbury, again, another credit to the league, like a really well-funded club, really well.
I've seen
deserved winners.
Yeah, and it'd be really good as well.
Not to dwell on them here, but I've seen them play twice this season. One of those games they came to Prestwich, a team obviously in the league above them, and won 4-3. So it shows they're not afraid to mix it up with the teams above them in the leagues above them. And the other game was that record breaker at when they played host to St Martin's, and that game was a spectacle to watch. Like it was great, obviously from a West Didsbury point of view, but when we come to St Martin's at the bottom and we look at the bottom of the division, it was something else to watch.
Just to touch
great
on
watching
St.
games like
Martin.
It's one of them. It's all well and good watching the goals go in, but when it's as one-sided as it was, you sort of It's a weird one. You don't know how to feel.
I suppose as champions, though, if the side is starting to win and lead a game by 8 or 9, on the flip side of it, you do get cheesed off when a team takes its foot off the pedal. Yeah. So I can't really wince too much at it because you want your team to go out and
Chris was saying when he was at Altrincham and coaching Altrincham reserves, they lost the league title one year by -1 goal difference.
Mm-hmm.
So
you'd be fuming, wouldn't you?
So I think he knew the cause. But I think one thing I did just want to say as well, actually, on West Didsbury's title win is how not to sort of be all sort of lovey-dovey, but how nice Twitter was last night when they won it. Like a lot of clubs and a lot of opposition fans congratulating them, which is how it should be, and I think it was all quite a nice atmosphere, to be honest. So
done it right. You've done it right.
Yeah, they have, and
nice to hear that football Twitter is not always a terrible place.
Yeah,
not always. Gents, the playoff spots, they're all signed, sealed and delivered on them. I don't know if you've had a quick check of the league tables. Of course, fast forward a few weeks when I figured out some editing, and here's the league table now. Nice. So who do we fancy in those playoffs to go for it? Who we think is going to go for it?
I think it'd be 1 from 4, really, Gary. Yeah.
Love it. Good to see we're still doing our homework.
About a 25% chance.
I think, to be fair, we've just hit the nail on the head, haven't we? In naming those teams that have all had a go at trying to catch West Didsbury. It could be any one of them, couldn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the league table there, FC Isle of Man, 24 wins, Abbey A, 24 wins, Wythenshawe Amateur, 24 wins, New Mills, 23 wins.
With a game in hand.
With a game in hand, so, you know... Yeah. Could have identical records at the end of the season, which is.
I think any of those teams, whoever goes up, is fully deserving of it. I think it's fair.
There should be great playoff games. Really should.
Yeah, it's what, like, you see some league tables finish up where the team at the top of the playoffs has 70 odd points and the team at the bottom of the playoffs like barely scrapes 50, and like. And obviously, it matters. The game on the day, it matters how you perform on the day as a better team. But, if there's an upset in the playoffs, you can sort of say, oh, well, on the course of the league season, that's a bit unfair on whoever gets beat. But in this scenario, if New Mills beat Isle of Man or vice versa, and Abbey Hay and Wythenshawe, whichever of those teams wins that playoff competition, you can't say, oh, they only scraped in at the first place. You can, because they're all neck and neck.
Yeah, there's 17 points between 5th and 6th, which shows how much they've stood out,
exactly,
all 4 of them.
I think on the one hand, it is a shame from a neutral perspective and maybe from all our perspective that there isn't more of a fight for the playoffs, but to have 4 teams of that quality in it speaks volumes about the First Division South, I think, in general. So.
Well, if
anyone from a fight in the playoffs.
Yeah, if anyone from the FA are listening, this is why you need playoffs 2nd to 5th. Imagine the Premier Division with Skelmersdale, Wythenshawe, Garnet Richard, and you probably have a whole host of teams trying to push up to get into that 5th place, into the playoffs. And this is why you need them. They have them at every other level, from the Championship right down to step 4. So they have them at step 6. So why not step 5? It doesn't make sense.
Gents, should we have a look at the bottom of the table now? Sure. I don't want to stick the boot into St Martin's. They've suffered enough without us for pointing out that they've had a bit of a rough season.
On the contrary, Gary, I think you've got to take your hat off to the board there, but particularly to the players. They've stuck with it through. They've stuck with it through some terrible results.
They've been brilliant.
Yeah,
they've done what they've needed to do.
They turn up 11 players. 5 subs every single week, and you've got to applaud that. It's brilliant. And
again, their Twitter admin has had, like, you can tell in the last few weeks they've had a lot of fun.
I'm glad you brought that up, Alex. That was going to be my talking point. I've seen a lot from the St Martin's Twitter recently. I've been keeping my eye on it quite a bit, and they have been because it goes from one thing to another. It's either something quite funny. Not necessarily like they're not laughing at their situation, but they will they will enjoy themselves on the Twitter, and they will present themselves as a fun club to be involved with, despite the circumstances that they've had this season.
And they're not in denial.
I mean, we don't give out awards.
Yeah, well, there you go. And it's also like some of the things that they post as well are quite inspirational. I saw recently, I think it was either the team that flew to the Isle of Man or the team that took that pelting at West Didsbury and Chorlton, that had an average age of 19. That's younger than me, and that terrifies me.
It's bonkers. It is bonkers, and I think obviously we don't give out awards for it. And Jay, I know you're one of said admins, but if we did have to give out an award for best Twitter admin, there's a lot of brilliant ones out there. So if anyone's watching this and not following the counties, go and find your local club on Twitter. They're brilliant.
Absolutely.
But
follow them all as well. Don't just follow your local team. Follow the lot, because there's a lot of good. There are a lot of good Twitter out there. It gives you a feel for football in the region. I think.
Yeah. I think saying that.
Here's a picture of a plug for no reason.
So Martin's admin is my underrated hero of the season.
Yeah.
Okay,
chaps. I'll take the silver medal.
I want to chuck something else in here as well. The other couple of sides that are at risk of finishing in the bottom two. Roaster, interesting to hear your views on that. And I'll say, Jet, now, speaking of somebody who's been involved in non-league for quite some time, and Martin will probably relate to this, Al Sage were in the Unibond and really kicking teams' backside not so long ago. I'll say not so long ago, but 7, 8, 9 years ago, they were a Unibond, Northern Premier League to you and me, chaps. But they were at that level, and they were an interesting side. They were physical and so on. And now they're possibly facing the prospect of potentially looking for a reprieve. So I'll start with Al Sage. Are we, as a collective, surprised at Al Sage, or does nature take its course?
I mean, I'm surprised by it. I didn't think that they were going to finish. Maybe not even top half. I certainly didn't think that they were going to be in the state that they're in.
Okay, I mean, there's not much of a reaction to that, which for me is quite interesting. But also maybe that tells a story in itself. Maybe when we watch these things, maybe we aren't surprised, and by recent form, it's not like they've suddenly just dropped out of nowhere this season. They have been there or thereabouts all season. So maybe with that said, do we want to have a look at Roaster then? Are we surprised by them? Are they a victim of the lateral move? Are they a victim of the league?
Just before we move on to Roaster, something about Al Sage. I didn't know that about a decade ago they were in the upper echelons of non-league football. I'm not too clued up on some of the
higher.
Yeah. Like hearing that they've sort of dropped off, you see that happen to teams at all levels in English football. And when it comes to a league season, it's different to, let's say, a cup competition. A team can push to the semi-finals one year and then have one off game in the third round and go out. But in a league season, you sort of see it happen gradually over the course of 36, 7, 8 games. And it's surprising at first to see them down there, but then as it progresses, you're sort of like, yeah, they're still there, and it wears off a little of, that shock does wear off.
Yeah,
it could be said for St Helens, I suppose. It's exactly the same viewpoints as we discussed before, so I think that's a fair comment. Do we want to have a look at Roaster then, chaps? Martin, I saw you sort of agree with me there when I mentioned about maybe the lateral move. Is that what you're thinking with Roaster?
I think so, because they've been at step 6 for a long time. I remember, 2012, 13 maybe, Runcorn Town went there in the FA Vase, and it was a blooming good game. They were potentially maybe even step 5 then, not step 6. And I think because they got moved last summer, and I do think that a lot of teams who get moved or laterally moved from sort of Midlands, Northern Counties East, they struggle in our league. They don't realise how competitive it is, which you only have to look at the league table to see that. There's the Stafford get moved across. Brockton, Roaster. So yeah, I think they have struggled. But when you're an outlier like that, it's easy for players potentially to go and sign for a club in Derby because it's 10 miles, 15 miles away, and you haven't got the travelling like up to Manchester and stuff every other week. So I do think they potentially suffered with because of the lateral movement.
It's interesting.
I mean, I'll get into lateral movement again in a minute as well, because obviously we'll discuss the county feeder leagues. But Jay, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, what I was going to say there, what you mentioned about the lateral move with roster, the two other teams you mentioned there, Stafford Town and Brockton. There's only Brockton in the top half of the table, and they're 10th. So none of those teams have come in and flourished. Like, you can see that they've sort of been put into a league that not that they weren't ready for or anything, but it's sort of, maybe it's more competitive than they were expecting. Maybe it's a little bit more, tooth and nail, nose to the grindstone kind of fight in the league to keep themselves, maybe not keep themselves afloat, but keep themselves just in the middle of the pack at the very least, which is what Brockton have managed to do, and Stafford as well. But roster have fallen shy of the mark.
Alex, any thoughts before we go on to step 7?
Not massively, to be totally honest. I think we can move on. It was fairly well covered.
I've got one thing, Gary.
Yeah, by the way.
Obviously, we spoke about Reprieves earlier on. Again, it has a knock-on effect further down into step 6. So this is as things stand today. So St Helens Town and St Martin's Town, will be relegated by virtue of finishing bottom. That's simply because there's 17 leagues at step 6, and there will be more than 17 promoted from the county feeder league. So whoever's
so just for clarity, Martin, for fans out there who are wondering about Reprieves, we are expecting St Martin's and St Helens Town to drop out of the Northwest counties.
Yeah,
if they finish well.
So basically, how it works with step 6 is the bottom 3 are relegation positions. So, like I say, there's 17 leagues. That means there's 51 teams, at risk of getting relegation. From the county feeder leagues, I think there's about 46 of them, Gary, 47 maybe.
Yeah, it's high 40s in it, yeah, give or take.
Yeah. So each team, you've got to finish top 5 in the county feeder league. You've got to pass your ground grading, and they can only promote 1. So like the Cheshire League, for example, I know we're going to come on to it. There's 4 teams applied from the Cheshire League. So whoever finishes top, or if they don't finish top, whoever's the highest of the applicants, as long as you finish in the top 5 and they meet ground grading, they'll get promoted. So as it stands, before as it stands, so at least 5 teams are going to get Reprieves every year, which will be the 3rd bottom ones, and therefore for everyone who doesn't get promoted, there's another Reprieve type thing. So there will be more than 17 promoted. So bottom is done, but it does show you that every single point is crucial, even for roster at this stage of the season with that R next to them, because finishing 3rd bottom, they're the first on the Reprieve list. So as it currently stands, Alsager Town and AFC Darwin will get Reprieves, by virtue of finishing 3rd bottom. If we look at 2nd bottom, then like I say, there's 17 leagues. Atherton LR have got the best points per game ratio in the country. So once it drops to 2nd bottom, they'll be first on the Reprieve list. Yeah. Sorry about that. Roster are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th on the Reprieve list. Now 10th will get relegated as things stand. So they're basically there or thereabouts.
So these last games are going to be seriously huge for us.
So basically, if they can get a win and massively up their points per game, it'll be massive for them.
I think for a lot of the viewers who are watching, who are thinking, "Wow, I've just learned something completely new about non-league," I think it's fair to say so have Jay and I. So,
yes, I was about to say that. I mean, me and you stayed dead silent throughout that explanation because we were listening hard. We were trying to understand it ourselves.
Jay and I so out of our depth.
This is what a lot of people don't sort of get. Is every point counts, because you're not only playing against teams in your league, you're playing against other teams throughout the country on a points per game ratio. So even getting a draw when. Yeah. It ups your points per game, really.
Okay, chaps. I'm thinking we've got about 5 minutes to go. So last on our agenda in chapter 6, item 14, is who may be coming up. Now, Martin just touched there on maybe like the Cheshire League. So I think it's in the public domain now, isn't it? Who's applied potentially around our area. It doesn't necessarily mean they're getting into our league.
Yeah.
But FC St Helens, we've touched on. Cheshire League. Edgerton, Cheshire League.
The Cheshire League, Cheshire Premier League clubs are FC St Helens, Edgerton, Winstanley Warriors, and AFC Knowsley. So FC St Helens are currently top of that league. Like I say, they're looking likely to replace St Helens Town. So, just to clarify here before we talk about any of these clubs, this is assuming they pass ground grading, which we don't know that at this stage. You've got,
and that's not a gimme, is it? Because
no, it's
obviously
not.
Martin and I know all too well. We've had clubs who we thought were shoo-in, we'll see you next season, blah, 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 blah. And they ain't got floodlights or they ain't got covered standing or turnstiles in and what have
It's
you.
always something that's easily forgotten, that kind of thing.
So you need to meet the minimum standards to get in the National League system, basically. So whether they've done that or not, we don't know yet. I think it's 31st of March you've got to have your grading in place by. So it's a little asterisk at this point. When we're mentioning clubs, it's not a given that they're going to get promoted from step 7, but it's, we don't know what's going to go on with grading. Known for however long anyway, so you think they'd be working towards it. I would be, but we don't know.
I think yet. there's Asheville as well in the West Cheshire League.
Yeah, so Cheshire Premier League, we're looking at FC St Helens by virtue of them being top. The West Cheshire, you say, Asheville. I think they're the only applicants from there.
But the only from that league getting the last I saw, they were doing quite well in this season.
Yeah, the top 5.
Again, ground grade.
Yeah, so again, it's down to ground grading. Who else is there? The Manchester League?
Stockport Georgians.
Yeah, so they're the only applicants from the Manchester League. So again, if they finish top 5, which they are currently in the top 5, they'll come up. There's no applicants from the Liverpool Premier Division.
I think we've got one Midlands, haven't we? Our old friends Foley Mere.
I'm working my way down the country, so
go for it.
West Lancs, you got Uxton Villa.
Exton, yeah.
Exton, sorry.
Villa.
Yeah.
Team I know relatively well. I've had a few friends playing their younger years at Exton Villa.
Yeah, so
nice club.
They're the only applicants from the West Lancs, and I think they are top 5 at the minute.
As a Prestoner born and bred, I'd like to see them in the North West Counties League. Get me into their games for free.
Staffordshire Foley Mere. So Foley's right in the middle of Stoke. We've been through Stoke and you go under that underpass where horses are not allowed.
Oh yes, I know it well. I don't know why I said it like that. I've been through it once.
It must have been memorable.
That's basically where they are. So it's right in the middle of Stoke. So yeah, potentially them. I can't think of any other. West Riding sometimes promote to us, don't they?
Every now and again, yeah. But again, it's subject to debate. We can throw the L word in again, lateral. I mean, all those clubs are potentially in line for promotion, and then we could end up with lateral move. We could end up with a different shaped league again. But the water balloon might change shape.
Again, we say this every year, Gary, but I need to clarify this. So when you get promoted and relegated, you get promoted and relegated to a step, not a division. So if you get promoted from our First Division South or First Division North, you don't get promoted from the Premier Division. You get promoted to step 5. And then once there's basically 320 clubs at step 5, the FA will allocate them to leagues. So obviously the maths don't work in our case. We've got 21 Premier Division clubs at the minute, haven't we? Let's say Mac and Kendall swap places. We've still got 21, so there'll be one going down.
There's 19 in Division 1 North.
Yeah, and we'll have 4 coming up from the north and the south. So there will be people laterally moved out of our league, out of our Step 5 league, and
Otherwise, we end up with about 30 teams in 2 years in the top division.
Congleton got moved last year. They won their appeal, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that was good. I think all.
Them for me are at risk. Winsford United, the second most southerly team, so could be them. Could be Padiham, could be Barnoldswick. We don't know, but it's a fact that we will get lateral movements out of the league.
Could be a very different North West Counties league again next season. But
it's a fact basically because the other teams are Macclesfield, not Macclesfield, Bury, which is you can't get much more of our footprint than Bury, can you? West Didsbury and Chorlton are guaranteed to be in the mix because they're in the middle. And then you look at the playoffs, and from the south, there's a lot of Manchester teams. Holker, could you see them getting moved to the Northern League? Not for me. So they go into our Premier League. So you are potentially looking Barnoldswick, Padiham, Winsford, Congleton, who any of them could get laterally moved out. Which
we've been doing our summers, Martin. South Liverpool's been doing their summers because that dividing line between North and South, as the crow flies, brilliant.
Keeps coming up,
and if you've got Ashfield, who are just a little bit there,
that's what I mean. It keeps coming up.
Boundary.
If, like you say, Runcorn Town got relegated, we'd be in the south.
I mean, can you imagine a Liverpool-based team potentially in the South Division? That shows where that line's going. And we've always said as well, Cumbria is an untouched Aladdin's cave of teams that could potentially really shake it up again going forward in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, so it's just for clubs to be aware of lateral movement because it will happen. We seem to be losing clubs from Step 5, but gaining clubs from Step 6. But, yeah,
we'll just have to see how it looks come the beginning of the next season.
Okay,
I'll wait for
about 45 seconds to mention non-league day. Go to a local game.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so good luck to everyone who's putting promotions on for non-league day as well. It seems to be quite subdued non-league day this year. Always a big faff and a big build-up to it. A lot of clubs in our parish seem to be like, nah. Yeah, but I hope it works out well.
I don't think it's great this year. Yeah.
It's a shame, but we did say at the outset as well. A lot of clubs are doing well, and non-league is doing well. You'd think non-league day as well would be a chance to really put that in people's.
Every day's a non-league day.
Every day's a non-league day.
That's as smooth as a melted galaxy. Well done.
Can that be the caption on this episode of the podcast?
Yeah, we peaked. It's time to call it a day, chaps, right?
Yeah.
Chaps, thank you very much for your attendance on this podcast this evening. Just a reminder to everyone who's watched it, we are all volunteers. We've taken an hour out of our evening to discuss the goings-on, but what a great amount of goings-on. You can help us by tuning in, watching these things, hit that like button, do that subscribe thing, depending on where I am on the screen, but it does help. This is the future.
The bell was the other thing.
Oh, the bell. The bell, yes, I like it. Yeah, so we hit that bell thing as well, because that will let you know when we upload in association with 54, whatever it is. Martin's trying to hold up and advertise something.
Mine's just off playing solitaire.
In association with a game of patience from Martin.
Yeah. No, I'll just say it's been an ace podcast.
Love it.
Hey.
You don't get these gimmicks from anywhere else, folks. So like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. So Martin, thank you very much for your attendance this evening. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Joker.
Hey, like it. Alex, thank you very much for hot-footing it to the podcast this evening. I know you sort of put one phone down and then picked another virtual one up.
Love it. We love it. Always a pleasure, Gary. Always a pleasure.
Never a chore. Jay, thank you very much for your thoughts and opinions this evening and your insight. Jay.
Yeah, of course. There you go. Been really nice to come back on. I've enjoyed the two of these that I've done. Hopefully, there's going to be a few more going forward. Maybe a bit of a quicker rate.
I'm sure some have noticed the slightly rehashed format as well.
Yeah, the more often we do them, the less we got to talk about. Because today was a bit of a bumper one. We've not done it for so long.
But we're pushing over an hour now, so
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
also our next one, can we just do like the Northwest Counties Awards? Like, we'll just.
Well, funny you should mention that.
Just have to. Oh, there we go.
There we
No
are.
spoilers.
We've got
It's
them
a
to
counties
come.
podcast tradition.
Oh, I'm way.
There we go. We're learning more and more.
Look
here,
out for the
Alex.
memo.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
All right, chaps. Right, it's time to call it a day so we can let our viewers, wherever they're going, if they're watching this on the commute or watching it at home or watching it in the bath, they can go and do what they need to do, especially if you're in the bath. Okay, chaps. Thank you very much, and thanks to everyone for watching. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.